Hi everyone, welcome back. Heather here. Today I want to talk with you all a little bit about non-native EMFs and non-native blue light and their impact on mitochondrial health. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you've likely heard of the reason why and what I'm going to explain here to today. But for those of you who haven't, this is really important information for anyone out there looking to prevent chronic and degenerative diseases. And for anyone who has a chronic and degenerative disease, especially mitochondrial related, such as cancer, type 2 diabetes, obesity, MS, Alzheimer's, even things like depression, infertility, hormonal imbalances. This is really key information for you all because it's going to explain why these things cause these diseases and how you can begin to rectify them. So basically, you need to know a little bit of physics in order to get the gist of why this works and why non-native EMFs and non-native blue light cause these things. And just to start off with, non-native EMFs. Non-native meaning the EMF frequencies are not coming from sunlight. So sunlight has natural EMF frequencies that are not dangerous or damaging to us and to the planet, versus non-native EMFs are super dangerous to us. They're alien frequencies to us that are outside of the spectrum range that is contained within the sun. So everything from about 240 to 780, those are frequencies that we need and can benefit from. Anything outside of that spectrum is considered non-native EMF and is dangerous and damaging to our body and causes mitochondrial diseases. So non-native blue light, meaning it's blue light that's not coming from the native source of the sun. The sun naturally contains blue light. And you look outside and you see the blue sky and then the sun reflecting off of that's creating blue light. But blue light is never by itself in nature like it is in our devices, anything tech related. So your iPhone, your smartphone, your iPad, your computer, these things all have non-native blue light, which does not come from the sun and is singled out. So it's not with all of those other rays in the sun. Blue light in the sun is always contained with red, and then later in the day, purples come in, and there's a whole variety of spectrums that come in the native, that are combined with the native blue light. So non-native means it's not coming from the sun and it's singled out in our devices and in LED lights and in fluorescent lights. These are why these things are so dangerous and actually cause mitochondrial diseases. And the reason being is because it depletes one of the main chemicals that is responsible for our mitochondrial health and functioning, and this is called melatonin, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with and have heard about, especially with regard to poor sleep. And poor sleep really boils down to mitochondrial diseases caused by non-native blue light toxicity and a deficiency in all 3 to 4 spectrums in the solar realms. So what happens is, why non-native EMFs and why non-native blue light causes mitochondrial diseases is because of its dangerous and this impact that it has on our mitochondria. So here comes a little bit of physics for you all. Now, inside your mitochondria, so on the inner mitochondrial membrane, you have 5 cytochromes or 5 respiratory proteins. Okay, and the purpose of these, or one of the main purposes, is that electrons tunnel across these cytochromes. Now, the closer those respiratory proteins are together inside that inner mitochondrial membrane, the more efficiently the electrons will tunnel across your inner mitochondrial membrane. This is a very desirable thing, it's very positive, it's very supportive to health. If your respiratory proteins are close together and electrons can efficiently tunnel across them, you will not get a mitochondrial disease. It's pretty much as simple as that. So this is key to healing mitochondrial diseases like cancer. So with cancer, people who have cancer have a high heteroplasmy rate and they have a low redox potential. And what this basically means is that their mitochondrial DNA is poor, they're aging quickly, and their cytochromes on the inner mitochondrial membrane are not close together, but they're stretched apart. And what are the two ways? The only two ways that you can get cancer is a loss of apoptosis and slow electron chain transport. And what causes that slow electron chain transport is when those respiratory proteins are stretched apart. So a key to rectifying cancer is moving those respiratory proteins closer together. And this is what I teach all of the people that I work with who primarily have cancer, as I teach them how to move those respiratory proteins closer together, because this is key when it comes to healing and preventing cancer and cancer reoccurrence and every single other mitochondrial disease out there. Now, here we go. What causes those respiratory proteins to stretch apart? Exposure to non-native blue light and exposure to non-native EMFs. It's as simple as that. So what happens is as these things hit your skin, as these things hit your eyes, it goes into your cells, and what happens is those respiratory proteins begin to stretch apart. For every 1 angstrom, those respiratory proteins are stretched apart. Electron tunneling diminishes by a factor of 10. Now, that is boiling all this down to a quantum level, and I know it may be a foreign language for some of you, but just think about this. The sicker that you are, the further apart your respiratory proteins are going to be stretched. So let's say your respiratory proteins are stretched out by a factor of 5, okay? That would mean the electron tunneling in you is diminished by a factor of 50, which is going to be huge in terms of mitochondrial diseases, because if the more your respiratory proteins are stretched out, the longer it's going to take electrons to tunnel across the inner mitochondrial membrane. So, for those of you who want to learn how to rectify this, because this is key to rectifying cancer. A lot of people go out and they do all sorts of therapies and these sort of things, but if you're not participating in practices and therapies that literally bring those respiratory proteins closer together, you're basically wasting your time when it comes to cancer treatments. So, in order to rectify cancer, to prevent reoccurrence, this needs to be a primary key. Most people in the Western world, they're infatuated with focusing on the nuclear genome to heal cancer. That's not going to get us anywhere because it's not the cause of cancer. The cause of cancer is deficiencies and inefficiencies within the mitochondria. And cytochrome 1 determines the epigenetics that are expressed in the nuclear genome. So cytochrome 1 is found on your inner mitochondrial membrane. So if you want to rectify SNPs, if you want to rectify cancer, if you want to actually impact the expression of the nuclear genome, you first have to start by rectifying the health of the mitochondria, and that starts by improving how electrons tunnel across that mitochondrial membrane. So if you want to learn how to do this, you can join me on Patreon, patreon.com/quantum level healing, or you can become a member on my site, quantumlevelhealing.com. And for those of you watching this video early, that site will be launched in August 2019. But these are key ways to really help to teach you how to begin to heal your mitochondria, because mitochondrial dysfunction is at the heart of all these diseases we're seeing today: cancer, type 2 diabetes, obesity, hormonal disorders, infertility, depression. And if you really want to rectify those things, you need to start with addressing how to improve the health of your mitochondria. And let me tell you, just as a hint, you get very little electrons from food. So food is actually not the preferred way to heal your mitochondria. Yes, it can be helpful, but it is not the primary, it is not the preferred way when it comes to healing your mitochondria. There are a lot of other things that have a much more potent impact on rectifying the health of your mitochondria. So if you want to learn more about that, jump over to my Patreon site or visit me at quantumlevelhealing.com. All right, I hope you found this helpful. If you have questions, please post below, and we'll see you next time.